Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatya Deshatarine. Okay, so we wanted to say a few words to initiate this very auspicious, extremely significant day in our lives as Gaudiya Vaishnavas and as followers of Srila Prabhupada. We wanted to touch upon three aspects on this Vyasa-puja. Number one is the personality. Number two is the position. Number three is the potency. So these three factors: personality, position, potency. We see in the lives of ourselves and everyone that this world is in real need of example. We need example. We learn, we absorb so many things, so many lessons in our lives, but those lessons are absorbed implicitly. So it's one thing that someone says something, right? But it's another thing that someone is something. And that means every aspect of their being communicates something. In the case of Srila Prabhupada, we hear of, we read about, we hear from an emissary from another dimension, another plane. And they enter into this world, this position as a Shakti Avesh avatar. Someone who is in an empowered position. Someone who is an empowered personality. And why? Because there's a certain potency that is running through them. A potency that is visiting this world from a completely different reality. And why is that so important? It's because that personality, the position, and the potency are all completely foreign to us, in a sense. And all three of these ingredients therefore have to convince us that there is something more than everything that we've known in this material world. It has to convince us that whatever you're experiencing now, there is so much more to reality that you can access, that you can be a part of. So the position, the personality, the potency is actually meant to deliver a promise. And what is that promise? The promise is that we don't have to just go through Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vadi. That we don't just have to be limited to the prison walls of the material body. Birth, old age, disease, death. So on this day of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja, we can celebrate all of these aspects. This person, by their personality, has given us a promise of another existence. And every single one of us, every single member of this movement has been touched in some way, shape or form by that promise. So when we talk about personality, it is extremely significant that Srila Prabhupada was his own unique individual. In fact, when we look at his pranam mantra, he's delivering the Western world full of voidism and impersonalism. In the modern world that we live in, when personalism is removed from the individual, when people act in such an impersonal way, because the impulse of the soul is still to be personal. Therefore, people personalize their phone cover, right? Just think about how ridiculous that is. We're eternal, unique individuals, but if that's maladjusted or misplaced, then we try to find some more external way of personalizing. So the Acharya has to come to teach what real personalism is. Prabhupada is so extraordinary when you look at what Prabhupada has done. One of the ways in which it's so extraordinary is you see in these communities around the world, you see people of all different backgrounds, ages, backgrounds, some who came at the time of Prabhupada, some who came after Prabhupada, immediately after, far after. And you look and you wonder, would these people have interacted with each other had it not been for such a nucleus? One of the qualities of these pure personalities is their extraordinary ability to attract the entire world. So on this day of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa-puja, when we celebrate everything that he is, which of course is a celebration which is ongoing, we can thank him for this spiritual personalism, which has brought together personalities of literally every walk of life around the world, united in a very unique way of brotherhood, sisterhood, divine family. Divine family, recognizing that Prabhupada is the Godfather, the ultimate bringing together of all of these individuals. When we read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, we also get a real insight into personality, because Prabhupada, transcendental person, also as an Acharya, agrees to go through this human experience. There was this consideration that some people do not like the first part of the Lilamrita. Their concern is it makes Prabhupada seem too human. Right? He's going. You hear about him, 2 heart attacks en route, right? And then we hear he comes to America. He's speaking. Practically no one is listening in the first year. We hear he mentions he was going to the dock, thinking this mission is not going to be successful, considering going back to India. But we see also through this potent personality what it means to set the standard for every single one of us. Sometimes the question is asked, why would the pure devotee go through something like that? Actually, I take it back. Generally, we're only asking about ourselves. Why am I going through something like that? Why am I going through something? But we understand the benchmark that is set by the Acharya. When we see what such great personalities deal with, what they go through, they set such a high bar that in comparison, whatever we need to deal with on our journey to Krishna, it becomes put into context, right? Because we understand things in contrast. So, personality and personalism is there. Personality in the sense that the person, such as Srila Prabhupada, goes through this human experience in a way to make the love of Krishna also relatable to each and every one of us, in some way, shape or form. So we can consider whatever I'm dealing with, I can take inspiration from Prabhupada's journey. I remember His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj speaking about this once. He said, if you want the inspiration and the determination to spread Krishna consciousness, all you need to do is look at Prabhupada's life story. And his life story is a live story, because also he's still present. There was a very touching pastime. Prabhupada had agreed to have these murtis. We see in all of our temples, he agreed to have these murtis set up. And one gentleman told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, if you install these murtis, then what will happen is people will pray to those murtis of yourself. And in praying to your murti, they'll be relieved of so many obstacles, the karma, etc. But it will come upon you. And Prabhupada, with tears in his eyes, he says, this is the reason why I've came. So on this, every day we should remember the sacrifice, the strength, and the sincerity of Srila Prabhupada. The brilliance of Srila Prabhupada also can also give us inspiration. Where does this knowledge, intelligence, wisdom, all of this come from? Again, living example of potency. Even within the Hindu faith, there's an understanding of incarnations, some understanding. But Shakti Avesh Avatar, how a living entity is specifically empowered directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to walk amongst the living entities in this world. Not something historical, but it actually in recent history, and to institute and initiate a miracle that continues to move forward throughout the world, even in their physical absence. It is perhaps one of the most greatest adventures of the modern world, greatest adventures of modern history. So this is also the potency, and that potency is also again speaking to us. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pridipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenam amupayanti te. He says, to those who serve me with devotion, he says, I give them the knowledge by which they can come to me. So we see throughout the entire arrangement of Srila Prabhupada, the extraordinary insight of Srila Prabhupada. We see the extraordinary wisdom of Srila Prabhupada that continues to unfold day to day as we follow his instructions. Srila Prabhupada, for example, at one point, I think this was towards the end of his time on this planet, he was speaking about how, I feel we've expanded enough temples. And he was actually talking about having restaurants with what? With a reading room, right? A reading room where people can come and they can read the books. Now think about it. It's just in recent years that people have this idea of Starbucks, right? Cafe, whatever, Costa Coffee, whatever it is. You have these places where people come. The old model is you want to get people out as fast as possible. You buy your drinks and leave, right? Prabhupada, his own transcendental vision preceding all of these things, we want them to stay. We want them to stay and we want them to hear. So Prabhupada's potency also manifests as his spiritual intelligence coming from Krishna, because there's an individual perfectly aligned to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So potency, personality, position. Prabhupada is predicted. He's predicted in more than one place. The Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a literature called the Sajjana Tushanti, he's predicted. Chaitanya Mangala, he's predicted. So Prabhupada, in at least one place, he's described as the Senapati Bhakta, the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya's own army. Lord Chaitanya says, I will spread this teaching throughout Bharatvarsha, but there will be one who will come, like a bounty hunter, who will spread it throughout the entire world. So again, we live in a time where the prediction, the spiritual, vibrant, living tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is being disseminated across the entire world. And today we get to celebrate and to glorify such a person. It is so special because in the Vedic understanding, on the birthday, whoever's birthday it is, they give gifts. So we should also understand that on this day of Srila Prabhupada's appearance, we are being given a gift. What happens on these special days? On these special days, the person whose appearance day we are celebrating is even more accessible. Right? They are even more available. And the beauty of this Krishna consciousness movement is it replicates the nature of Krishna's love. We should be very clear, we are always in a competition. A competition between us and Krishna, a competition between us and Prabhupada. What is the nature of that competition? Right? The nature of the material competition is everyone is competing in a world of limitation. In the modern world, people feel that sense of scarcity. They complain about the scarcity outside, but there's a deeper, unfortunate root. In the material world, the real scarcity that people are often unconscious of is that we feel a scarcity inside. Hence, we are insecure. Hence, we are constantly competing for resources. I want my prestige at the expense of someone else's. I want my resources at the expense of someone else. But this Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition introduces us to a very different type of competition. And that competition is characterized by Srila Prabhupada's pastimes on this earth. What is the competition of a devotee? The competition of the devotee is to see who can be more kind, more caring, more loving between ourselves and Krishna. And of course, who do you think always wins? Right? Krishna always wins. When we see Srila Prabhupada and what he did to spread this movement, you can see this transcendental competition. Prabhupada is always trying to give more to Krishna, to serve Krishna better, to serve Krishna. It is literally a life of love that is alive, constantly alive. So we should take these opportunities to first of all consider how fortunate we are. There's these different types of consciousness in the material world. The poverty consciousness, I don't have enough. There is also the abundance consciousness. We have access to the unlimited. And this is the way a devotee thinks. But this understanding of Krishna, it has to always be mediated by an example that we can more easily access. Right? An example that has moved amongst humanity in modern times. Right? So Srila Prabhupada leaves this planet 1977. Right? Very, very contemporary understanding. And at the same time, leaving gifts that we can continually unpack, unfold, avail ourselves of. So Prabhupada, when we hear his pranam mantra, delivering the world from voidism and impersonalism, giving Gauravani, the instruction of Lord Chaitanya, we can consider that on this special birthday, this Vyasa-puja celebration, we've been given multiple gifts. Normally, you're given a gift for yourself. The transcendentalists, the pure devotees, the spiritual masters, they do something very, very different. They give you gifts that come back to you the more that you share them. Isn't that interesting? A gift that you give away, a gift for you to give away, which comes back to you even more. The more you give the gift away, the more the gift reveals itself to you, the more the gift becomes abundant in our own existence. So, this is the gift. This day, Krishna makes this point in the Puranas that those who claim to be my devotees, they're not my devotees. He says that those who are devotees of my devotees, they are ultimately my devotees. What does that mean? It means that the gift that the Acharya gives is not just the preaching mission. It means that the gift that the Acharya gives is ultimately the gift of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. The gift that Srila Prabhupada gives is actually the gift of God. The gift of love of Krishna. And everything, his books, his teachings, his example, his institution, his mission, all of these are ways by which, the more we share on his behalf, under his instruction, for his pleasure, the more that we feel Krishna abundantly in our lives. So yesterday we celebrated Janmashtami. But perhaps the Lord is even more present on this day. Why? Because when we glorify someone who is very dear to Krishna, Krishna becomes even more accessible. It is just like, someone does something for you, nice. But you have a son or daughter who was, they lost their wallet and they needed some money to get back home. And you did something for that child, for that child who is dearly beloved and dearly dependent of the Father, how much more intimately the Father is automatically pleased. So we can consider how blessed we are every single day. And again, we want to cultivate this perception of reality. So on this Vyasa-puja, understanding the position not just of Guru, of Acharya, founder Acharya. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. The one who is the Acharya understands what is what. What does the Acharya do? Of all the phenomenal hundreds of thousands, if not millions of verses of the scripture, the modern day Acharya selects of all of these different verses, these are the ones which are relevant for the people of this age in order to come back home, back to Godhead. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Bhakti Tattva Viveka, he speaks about this, that the position of the Acharya, he emphasizes that position, and this is one of the reasons. So understanding the position, understanding the potency, that this person is able to unite the entire global world community. Have you noticed that we live in a world where there is more and more polarization, right? And what does Prabhupada come to teach? Unity with diversity. Helping us to understand that there is a platform under which we can all unite in a genuine way as each other's brother and sister, as members of one united family of all different backgrounds, recognizing our own spiritual common ground. So the position of the Acharya, the potency of the Acharya in terms of achieving this mission, the personality, going through so many different challenges which are recorded for us to understand that if we just keep faith, then through the understanding of position, potency, personality, we can receive the promise that Srila Prabhupada has given each and every one of us, that by following those instructions, we can come back home, back to Srila Prabhupada, back home, back to Godhead. So let us take this day to recognize the gifts. Let us take this day to revitalize our own commitment to Srila Prabhupada. Let us take this day as a special opportunity to literally, we should do this from time to time, to literally rejoin the Hare Krishna movement. Recognizing on this birthday, this is our chance to continue to respect the gift, to continue to share the gift, and to continue to receive the gift that has been given by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Let's go and Zadu, Zadu.
Everything's Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy. Thank you. So it is 8:15. I think we will now go to hear a class by Srila Prabhupada. So you can turn to the screen so you can also see the translation. Hare Krishna.
Upon seeing the charming forms of the Lord, smiling and attractive, and hearing His very pleasing words, the pure devotee almost loses all other consciousness. His senses are freed from all other engagements, and he becomes absorbed in devotional service. Thus, in spite of his unwillingness, he gets liberation without separate endeavor.
दर्शनीय अवयवै विदाव विलास आसे स्थित मानसुत्वै पितात्मना ईत प्राणां च भक्ति अनिच्छतो मे प्रतिमन्नि भजन्ति श्रीविग्रह दर्शनम temple is situated to give people the facility as it is described here. Three, Darsaniya Avayavai Vidara. We have to see the deity beginning from the lotus feet, not jumping over the smiling face. That is the way. First of all, to try to see, and when you have practiced, try to see the lotus feet of Krishna. And when you have practiced to this habit, even after visiting the temple, if you go home, if you have practiced to see the lotus feet of Krishna, that is meditation. So, Darsaniya Avayavai, different limbs. First of all, feet, then the thighs, then the belt, then the chest, then you reach the smiling face. Krishna and Krishna's form. If you meditate on Krishna's form, that is Krishna. So we associate with Krishna. His smiling face, his flute, his hand, his dress, his concert, Srimati Radharani, or any other gopis surrounded by. In this way, practice this habit of observing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he has appeared, Archavitra, so that we can see in our present eyes, even Krishna comes, but we have no eyes to see. Therefore, for the Kanishta there are three kinds of devotees. Kanishta, Madhyamadikari, and Uttamadikari. Uttamadikari means first class, most advanced. And Madhyamadikari means in the middle stage, not very advanced, not very low. And Kanishta, just the neophyte, beginning. So, for the beginners, it is recommended that you see the deity daily or always, beginning from the lotus feet, as you have practiced, will go up to the smiling face. And here also, Srimad Bhagavatam, simply if you try to see, and if you don't hear, then it will not stay very much. Therefore, we see practically in many temples, because there is no discussion about Krishna, simply it is there, people go for some time, then gradually, especially those who are educated, so-called educated, they do not feel very much interested. And it has actually happened so. Many temples, they are not visited even by the devotees, because there must be also hearing. Two things must go on. The deity must be worshipped. This is called Pancharatri Vidhi. And to hear about the Supreme from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedic literature, that is called Bhagavad.